Okay, we're back. The H310M-C. I think it's a CSM board. Yeah, it's CSM. Business grade board. If you remember, last time you saw this, it was in an attempted build that was a giant fail because Asus lied about the platform that this can run. It has said it could run Windows 7 when the reality is that it cannot. So what I'm going to do is, assuming it will actually fit in the case with this cooler, because it might not, but I've bought a 16GB RAM kit for this. DDR4 2666, which is the fastest that it will support. 16 gigs, which is pretty much the maximum that this thing's ever probably going to see anyway, considering it's only 2666. You can't really get much anymore that's not lower than 3000 megahertz. So, or I guess 3 gigahertz if you really want to be that accurate. But, whatever. So I'm going to go ahead, and what I'm going to do is put this into my VPN server. Because that, I think, I hope, has an NVMe SSD in it already. So I can just slot in the NVMe, and we should be able to just basically plug and play. Again, assuming that it will actually fit in the case. And maybe even if it doesn't fit in the case. Because this cooler, which I will actually go into some more detail with, because you can see it's got a Cooler Master fan on it, even though it's not a Cooler Master, well, you probably can't tell, but I just told you. Actually, that's not a Cooler Master fan, I'm an idiot. That's a Corsair fan. This is very definitely not a Corsair cooler. This is actually a Be Quiet Shadow Rock LP, which I think I tried to install in the last video as well. I finally got it installed, after much strife, only to find that the fan mounts on the side are bent, and I actually broke the fan that it came with trying to get these mounts on. It's not a very good design. I may actually give them a negative review on that, because out of all of the coolers I've ever used, this one is probably the most difficult to actually install. And there's no real reason for that. It's like they just reuse an existing mounting system, because it's the same mounting. It's got the same bar, and it's got the same pretty much everything that all their other coolers have. It's just not designed for it. You know, and I know that it's got the gaps in between. You may even be able to slightly, just barely make out one of the screws there, but you can't fit the screws through those holes. So you gotta get a pair of pliers, you gotta get the screw into the hole, get a screwdriver, then hope that it's magnetic, and like just push, and then get rid of the pliers, and then screw it into place. It's such a pain. You know, it would have been completely mitigated if it was properly designed. But, whatever. I mean, I didn't design it, they didn't ask me when they were designing it, so I guess I get no input. So, it's still not really on there right, you can tell. Like I said, this is the arm that was bent, and it's just not in place very nicely. The fan is probably not going anywhere, so it's good enough, and the cooling is certainly adequate. Without the fan, that would get up to 60 degrees pretty quickly, because it needs the fan to dissipate the heat. So I did go ahead and buy another Be Quiet fan. That should be PWM control. You know, a proper fan, not this. So this can just go into something else, probably another case, because that's really what they are, they're case fans. I need to replace one of the fans on my main computer anyway, because the bearings are dry on it. So I'm not sure why they're dry, because it's a relatively new fan, but whatever. So let me stop yakking, pull all this crap out of the way, and we'll see if we can get this installed in its new home. Hopefully it will work. That's the next thing that I gotta ask. Okay, here's a look inside the case. I went ahead and just pulled the optical drive because I don't think there's any way in heck that that's going to actually fit in here. So, pull out the existing SATA cables. I am going to use these. Maybe I won't. I might not use these stupid ones. I might use the actual proper ones. I'll probably just leave the proper ones in. So, gotta save that NVMe SSD though. And there it is, installed in the case. As I suspected, that optical drive will not fit. It won't even fit in before I've plugged in the power connector and the SATA connector, so no optical drive here. It's just going to be a nice giant gaping hole, at least until I decide I'm tired of this case, which is probably coming soon. This is really an old case. I can probably get something quite a bit better than this. Although I don't know, a small form factor case is not really well suited to what I'm doing this with, but it works. Temperatures are pretty decent too, so I've set everything, I think, accordingly. I'm going to save changes and exit, and we'll see what it does. See if it actually posts, or if I broke it. Okay, so that works. Let's see if Windows will boot. If anything's not going to work, it'll be Windows, because I don't know if it'll like the UEFI on this, because it is different. It looks like we're getting somewhere. So that's pretty cool. I think it just rebooted, which is pretty typical for what Windows will do on the first startup. I'm not really familiar with the workings of UEFI. Oh look, there's a 4-letter word again. Well, that works quite nicely. Just remains to be seen how many unknown devices we've got. Okay. Everything is set up. Surprisingly, everything worked out of the box, with basically minimal exceptions, which is nice. Had to call them to activate because, as usual, the Windows activation troubleshooter doesn't work. Wants you to sign in with a Microsoft account. Yeah, forget that garbage. Nobody in their right mind is going to do that. So, certainly not me. So, I put this on there because I had to remove the filter. I don't think this is really going to work. It's not really sitting on there very nicely anyway. I'll have to get some better tape. But, well, it should be good enough. I'm going to go play with some of the VMs, make sure they're set up correctly. And then I'll put this thing back where it needs to go. And then we can wrap this up. Something actually went by smoothly for once. Okay. Here we go. I think KBM is set right. Asus in search of incredible. Here it comes. There's that 4-letter word again. Shutdown tracker for some reason, even though I shut it down properly. Here we go. So we have that working. Make sure all the VMs start. Which I think they probably will. I don't think there'll be a problem. Okay, yeah, it looks like everything is probably going to start up just fine. And then the system should lock itself, and then that'll be that. So far it looks like everything is starting. Okay, looks like we're good on that front. Now we wait. So there you go. If you were ever wondering if I was going to use it for something, even though I sounded incredibly vindictive in the last video I made, and I was, because that was just crazy talk. Like, I don't know who thought that was a good idea, but clearly they weren't really thinking that day. But it's too nice to let that hardware just sit around and do nothing. So I gave it something to do. It's not what it was going to do, but it can sit in there and it can do that. And it should be just fine. And that's pretty much it for the video. Everything seems to have worked. I may tweak some things a little bit, but as far as the computer itself is concerned, we're done here. I've done what I needed to do.